come to sustainable and social procurement, the way forward. Roberto Caranta is an expert in this field for many years. He is a professor of administrative law at the University of Turin, and he has many publications on sustainable public procurement. He is also part and co-director of the Center for Transnational Legal Studies in London. He has written a publication on mandatory sustainability requirements in EU public procurement law, published in 2023. And in 2025, a study on the coherence in the EU public procurement directives. Having said that, I would like to hand over the word to Roberto. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Desiree, for your kind introduction. And well, I guess you all are already very tired, so I will try not to abuse your patience. So I will be kind of focusing on some new things after presenting what is the situation now. So the situation now is that traditional EU law focused on the how to buy, the procedure. What to buy is the member states' money, so that was not really something very much for the EU. What was rather the problem? The problem was that some understanding of the how to buy rules stood in the way of sustainable public procurement. Stood in the way of sustainable public procurement because market restriction, discrimination might be lamenting by a normal farmer against farmers selling, for instance, biological carrots. So the important development we had more than 10 years ago with the 2014 directives was to introduce a general principle focusing on sustainability and have specific rules on different steps in the buying decision that were, let's say, empowering contracting authorities, still putting some limits, and for sure not making SPP mandatory, with the exception on abnormally low tenders. Then, in the past more or less 5 years, the picture changed a lot. It was really what Sarah said very well. Well, if you want to do things, you need the money. And the EU doesn't have that much money in its budget. So they had to think, okay, where can we find money? And of course, public procurement is the easy answer. 15% of the GDP must be a lot of money. So we had, not in this legislature, in the previous one, high ambitions, the European Green Deal, the European Pillar of Social Rights, and in all cases, the idea was we use public procurement. We use public procurement to achieve important societal goals. And of course, this has been extended more recently to resilience, to the aspects about the supply chain, to buy in Europe. This was already discussed very well by Sarah, so I don't need to go into this, but do not think, please, that using public procurement for something different than saving money is just for those left wings or something. Europe has societal challenges, and public procurement is, let's say, our powerful tool. The problem is that, and this was a bit discussed, well, more than a bit, in the book edited with dear Willem Jansen, that was already mentioned by Desiree, that, well, public procurement is a complex tool. There are different aspects to it. And in doing this, the EU legislators were not super consistent. They took the public procurement toolbox using different aspects. At times, it makes sense. Other times, I would say less so. These days, considering also resilience aspects, we have more than 60 directives and regulations, but I've told you that I will not keep you too long here, so I've made a selection just to give you, let's say, a feeling of what has happened. Starting with the deforestation regulation. And here you have temporary exclusion for maximum 1 year as a sanction for those economic operator having been found guilty. You need a final judgment of breaching deforestation rules. So this goes into exclusion criteria. The corporate sustainability due diligence, it was our, let's say, drama at the end of the past legislation and at the beginning of this new one. We have an omnibus. So some companies are happier, not all of them, by the way, but it didn't change anything for public procurement because recital 92 is still there. So member state, when they will implement, there is a bit more time, the directive, they will still have to choose about the possibility to exclude when there is a violation. And you see, this is by any appropriate means. So deforestation, you need a final judgment. Here it is enough to have some means. Breaching the deforestation regulation is treated as grave professional misconduct. It is also possible to consider compliance, voluntary compliance with this directive in the award criteria, giving more points. So possibility of exclusion, but also award criteria. Minimum wages directive. This is the social aspects. Here is more in the contract performance, but basically there is a decision whether to allow to take into, it's not whether, it's really shall. So member state must be made sure that those working in public procurement, the companies, economic operators, comply with minimum wage. And the other directive, this is also for equal pay between men and women. Here you can have contract performance clauses, but also you might consider this up to the member states so far exclusions. Then we have eco-design requirements for sustainable products. This is super big. They have already a list, they are already starting working. Basically, it is the Commission. The Commission may draft criteria for public procurement, mandatory criteria for public procurement. So, sustainable products, there is the idea there is a minimum. Below this minimum, you can't sell in the EU. But contracting authorities may be asked to buy those that are more sustainable. Oh, it looks more complicated than it is, but if you remember the last time you bought a fridge, there was a sticker on the side starting from dark green and going down to dark red. And there are the performance classes. So think about cars, Euro 4, I think they can't be sold anymore, but you can sell Euro 5, Euro 6. Well, I'm not a very big expert, but they might decide, Commission might decide that in public contracts you only go for Euro 6. As a private person, you can buy Euro 5, but not as a contracting authority. NZA, this was already mentioned by Sarah. Well, this is about sustainable contribution, environmental contribution in our criteria, about 15%, but also a resilience contribution. So you see what we had in the past legislature, sustainability is already married here with what is, let's say, a bit more modern, meaning these aspects concerning resilience, which is becoming, but I don't want to go back into it, more and more important. So, again, this was just 5 examples, maybe 6. What is important, this is no more just about how to buy procedures. This is about what to buy. You need to choose or to prefer certain products. It is also about whom not to buy from. You don't want to buy from companies engaged in deforestation. There is a big difference that I think is very, very important in view of the forthcoming reform. What the difference is between horizontal rules that will apply to each and any procurement, deforestation, equal pay, they apply to all procurements. And then you have sectoral rules. So the NZA is on specific products. The construction product regulation, which is very similar to the eco-design, is only on specific products. I would say construction, but it's really more complex. So depends on what the Commission prepares before. Maybe they will start with Windows. So this will be applicable to Windows, but not to roof. I don't know. So this difference is important because everyone is complaining about these 60 plus texts, and the reform should be doing something, but there are limits to what it can be done. So when you reform the 2014 directive, it is easy to refer to horizontal rules like working conditions. And these should be somehow taken seriously and be linked to the different kind of exclusions. Why is difficult? Why many contracting authorities, they are a bit mad about all this legislation? Well, because it's not their job to check working condition, equal pay, minimum wage, supply chain. So we can't just overload contracting authorities. In the reform, we need to make sure that information is easily available to contracting authority and contracting entities, like deforestation. There will be a website with those companies that are excluded. Very, very easy for all contracting authorities. Also, I think it is important, and now I'm going towards the sectoral, that you leave room for contracting authorities wanting to do more. When the Commission will lay down those mandatory criteria, they will have to assess at the Commission that, okay, this is good both in Italy and in Finland. And Italy and Finland are very different. So this will be not the most ambitious, because in Italy we would not be able to do that, most probably. So go down to some low average. So it is important that these minimum criteria are, as I'm saying there, minimum. Contracting authority in Finland, for instance, maybe in some place in Italy, they can be more ambitious. Also, and there was a question to Michael, equivalent. Well, we have a very nasty judgment by the Court of Justice, Dica Plastics, and they basically said, listen, plastic pipes are the same as clay pipes, functional equivalence. Well, if you think about functional equivalent, coffee is coffee, fair trade or not. Energy is energy, renewable sources or not. This is a wrong and badly argued decision, judgment, that must be disavowed in the reform to allow contracting authority to buy sustainably. Better judgment, aeste. Of course, if you pay more people, they will be happier. So this is linked to the subject matter. But the Court of Justice could have been a bit, in my opinion, more brave, and could have not sent it back to the National Court to wonder but whether this is discriminatory against SMEs. and other economic operators. We need to reinstate the full power of Concordia Bus. Concordia Bus was very clear by saying that if you want sustainable products, of course, there will be a narrower competition. Who cares? Sustainability is not less important than competition. So I think it is really necessary in the new reform to write really clear that contracting and willing contracting authorities and entities wanting to do more than the minimum criteria can do this. And this is necessary, sorry again, because the recent case law, even when it is okay, like in Aeste, doesn't really have, let's say, the same ethos than Concordia Bus, Max Avelar, and the rest. So this was a bit fast, but I'm sure at this time in the afternoon you don't want to know about the Critical Medicine Act or similar. So to you, Desiree, for questions, whatever.
Thank you very much, Roberto. I think there's always time for sustainable public procurement, but that might be a personal preference. Very interesting. Are there any questions in the chat? Björn, I've seen that currently there's nothing in the chat, so I'm not sure if there are technical issues or.
No, I just cleaned it up to have a better overview, but no question from the audience right now.
Well, then maybe I have one question. Do you, Roberto, think will mandatory sustainability requirements get some upwinds because of the Buy European requirements? And how do we separate those? How do we ensure that sustainability is really about sustainable products and Buy European protecting the market? How can we differentiate that?
Well, you can't really have a firewall between the two. I think it was already 7 or 8 years ago, a different word, of course. So the Commission was struggling how to protect a bit European bidders in public procurement. And there was this communication, much better than the most recent non-paper, but basically what the Commission was saying, ask for sustainability requirement, forget the lowest price. So that might not be the case anymore with some competitors like China, but still there is, and the NZA is commissioned, there is this imbrication between sustainability and more or less protectionistic industrial policy aspects. Still, there are some clear kind of specific aspects that where you don't have these at a pathological level. Think about asking for recycled content. Recycled asphalt can come from everywhere. Recycled tissues, even paper, these can come from everywhere. So there is room for genuine sustainability. The same is equal pay. Well, equal pay, we ask for equal pay from, basically, this directive is for the EU, for EU countries. Actually, insisting on equal pay, we might create some kind of adverse competitive effect for European countries, for firms from European countries. So it's still possible to be different, but at the same time, I'm not ideologically against some synergy between sustainability and resilience. I'm not against some synergy also because, let's say, of a political, how to say, framework. So today, at least in the European Parliament, it's more difficult to sell sustainable public procurement than it was in the past legislature. But they are very, very happy to protect resilience, more or less.
So then the narrative shifts, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we have actually a follow-up question from Petra Ferk.
Petra, ciao.
Yeah. She is asking, which criteria do you think should or could be mandatory?
Well, that honestly very, very much depend on the sector. So it depends. For instance, I was talking about recycled. So recycled asphalt is very advanced. So let's put recycled. Wood, recycled wood is not so easy because you can't really. Maybe there are examples of some recycled furniture, but if you are talking about a building, most probably you will have recycled glass, recycled cement, recycled stones. You will not have that much recycled wood because if you are taking it out, it's probably rotten and not possible to be used. So it really depends on what is the subject matter. The good thing about sectoral, it will be very, very specific kind of product by product, and I think that the Commission can do an easily good job. And also is not as least from what I heard from people really working in the field, is not so maddening for contracting authorities. So you are an engineer for a contracting authority. You don't care whether you have to apply the bottom line or the higher SPP criteria. You will have some technical specification to apply. You are an engineer. You will do it.
So this will speak a little bit towards sectorial regulation rather than horizontal.
Yeah.
Very good.
Horizontal is really, you need the proof. You need you can't think about the corporate sustainability due diligence. You can't ask contracting authority to read through hundreds of pages of documents for each company. There must be someone giving a stamp and saying, okay, no, this is complying with the directive.
Yeah, I agree. And then we have one question from Alexandra Xaika. She's asking, have mandatory green criteria in Italy proved to fit the purpose of making procurement more sustainable and enhance better, not just more competition, better competition?
Yes, I must say the experience is more than positive. Of course, is not these criteria. First, they are sectoral. So, for instance, for paper, for let's say gardening and this kind of thing, they are normally reasonably easy for contracting authority, because these are like the European GPP criteria. They're already there. You can cut and paste in your procurement document. And it's not less competition because, well, basically, suppliers, they know, okay, this is not just a municipality of Turin being picky. This is each and every municipality in Italy. We have 8,000 of them. And the criteria, more or less, they should be those ones. So you adapt your business model if you want to stay in the market, but normally companies, they do want to stay in the market.
Very good. So fair competition is possible even with sustainable requirements.
For sure.
Changing the business model. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Oh, we have one last question, I think, that I take, and then we'll slowly wrap up. The question is, can we talk about national green preferences at the European level? What do you think about those, Roberto?
Well, this is, in my opinion, one good reason to have a minimum criteria across Europe, because otherwise you have a fragmented system. Only minimum Y, and so there is still room for preferences. As I told you, Italy is not Finland, but also maybe Palermo is not Turin. So it is important to leave room for, and I would say not so much countries, but contracting authorities to move forward and to contribute more towards social, climate, environmental objectives. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. Unless there are any further questions, I really want to thank our excellent speakers. That was really a tour d'horizon through many different topics. And I feel innovation procurement, sustainable procurement, and Buy European, they all fit into the revision of the directives. And we will see what will stay and what will need a give way, so to say, to the priorities. And in that sense, I wish you a very nice evening. I thank you that you have joined us today. And I'll leave the last word to Björn.
Thank you very much, Desiree. First of all, thank you to all our great speakers today for showing up. Thank you, Desiree, for moderating the fifth version of our Public Procurement Council. It was a pleasure to do it again. It's always great to get the community together as we do here. Just a few things. We will see. I've seen in the chat that there's been a lot of requests on the presentations and the recording of today. We will see if that is possible. We will get back to you and let you know. If we will publish this, you will get an email. There will be an email coming out where you will also get access to the latest journal of Apple for free. It's important to mention that this access, you can download the journal. It's only until the end of this week. So as soon as you receive the email, go to the website and download it. Yeah, if you have any questions regarding the journal, regarding our events, you can always contact us. Thank you again for being here. It was a pleasure, and I hope to see you all next year at a 6th Annual Public Procurement Council.